Will an American rugby commentator break the internet, break TikTok with his commentary on a Welsh rugby winger potentially playing in the NFL? Who knows? Welcome back, guys. Casual Bias Rugby. Hit that subscription notification icon down, man. Like, support real independent rugby coverage from fans. Like, none of us are like I have a day job, but you know what I mean. Like, from actual real fans that want to talk about the game of rugby. But today, we're not talking solely about the game of rugby. I guess it's something rugby adjacent. From the announcement of Rees-Zammit'S not joining the Welsh squad and deciding to take his time and try to come over here to the United States to try and qualify for the NFL, it's been one of the most polarizing issues in the rugby community. Now, it's an interesting issue in the fact that I'm a massive rugby fan, I'm a massive rugby commentator, but I also live in the United States. And I did grow up around the game of football. It is a normal thing here. Even when you grow up in the Great White North, you know all about the NFL. Obviously, I've got my Buffalo Bills hat on. That was the closest team that I could really identify with. But this has been a really big debate on the rugby communities online. And almost from the offset, you already got these articles that were completely outlandish about the entire situation. Things like this. Stripping his head onto players who are already in the NFL, have already paid their dues, have already put time into the league, and thinking that it's going to be nothing more than a cakewalk for this young man to walk into the National Football League. And then eventually photos come out. He's working out at IMG Academy down in Florida. This is a really big private sports school in Florida. This is where they were holding the camp. And it's the debate. Where's he going to end up? Then, as soon as the camp is over, he goes and makes a few visits to a few teams, and there's already all this assumption that he's being signed by these teams who are inviting him to camp. And I do got to give a special shout out to Rugby Pass for making the most sensational headlines about the entire situation. And this is where my problem in the whole situation lies. So as a rugby fan, obviously I don't want to see rugby not do well as a sport. That's the sport I cover, that's the sport I talk about, and it's the sport that I want to see succeed. But on the other side of that, on the flip side of the coin, I do live in the United States. Am I the biggest NFL fan? By no means am I the biggest NFL fan. When it comes to American football, I'm more of a college football team. Go Pokes, OSU, that's my team. But on the flip side, it's like I said, it makes it look like the sport is a cakewalk, and you needn't go too far than to look in comment sections about it. And for a sport that is struggling greatly internationally, rugby, I mean, we had the premiership losing teams left and right. What kind of precedent does it set that, oh, if you don't want to play rugby, you can just cakewalk your way into the NFL? Now, in 7 short years, the Rugby World Cup will be coming to the United States. And what's it say about rugby in America when rugby players don't even want to play rugby, they want to play in the NFL? So in both places, this is an issue that is seen, and I'm seeing it from both sides as a fan of rugby union and as an American. I'm not, like I said, not the biggest fan of the NFL, but I by no means think it's a lesser sport, it's a weaker sport. It's a completely different sport, folks. And the idea that you think that rugby is tougher than the NFL or vice versa, it's like comparing badminton to UFC. They're completely different sports. They take completely different skill sets. And then once it is announced that he is signing with the Kansas City Chiefs, you automatically begin seeing photos where they're putting him next to a multiple MVP, multiple Super Bowl winner, Patrick Mahomes. Yes, multiple Super Bowl winner. Because that's how we do things down here in Texas. Way to go, Patrick. And it's the people's belief overseas that he's going to make an easy job of this. It's going to be an easy crack for him. And for me, thinking, oh, this is delusional people that don't know anything about the sport. But the reality is it's because of Rugby Pass and all these articles putting out this thing that, like, oh, he's going to make the team almost immediately. That's where the problem lies, because people overseas see that and they think that that's the truth. And they know that rugby is struggling overseas. It's struggling for fans, it's struggling for money, it's struggling to keep players. And it's like they don't see the fact that, like, this is not good for rugby. And it's not just the opinion of this commentator that I think he's going to struggle in the NFL. I've reached out to multiple friends in the sporting community. I've reached out to two very close people. I've gotten a reply from one. One is a former rugby player who played high school collegiate football, was invited to a camp with the New Orleans Saints. Unfortunately, COVID kept him from going to camp. He has watched the video on this young man, and I will post what his response to was in the video. Now, if you don't want to listen to my opinion about his NFL ability, listen to the opinion of somebody that himself was an NFL hopeful at one time, who transitioned to rugby, so he knows both sides of the game. Is Rees-Zammit'S a bad athlete? No, he's a hell of a rugby player, but he has absolutely none of the skills and traits that we've seen to make a good wide receiver or running back, which are the two positions that he's currently saying he's going to vie for. And then we go back to the 3-year contract, and you can take a look at the average life expectancy of a running back and a wide receiver in the NFL, and their average life expectancy within the league isn't even 3 years. So why would they be signing a guy to a contract who's never played a meaningful minute of professional football to a 3-year contract? It doesn't make any sense. It's not going to happen, but they also don't sign practice squad players to 3-year contracts. And it's almost as if they're acting like this is the first time a rugby player has tried to play in the NFL. Paul Lasike, center for the USA Eagles and Utah Warriors of Major League Rugby, is a former Chicago Bears draft pick. He played his American football at Brigham Young University in Utah and made the Chicago Bears. And of course, we can't go without talking about Junior Rugby League star, now playing for Philadelphia, and the 23rd highest paid player at his position in the entire league. But Luis Rees-Zammit'S is far from the first import that's ever tried to make this sport, and he's not even the highest end that's tried to make the sport. You can find out the article. There were rumors that Jonah Lomu was offered a contract with the Dallas Cowboys way back in the 90s. There was a story about Dan Carter, the former All Blacks fly half, who was offered a tryout with the Super Bowl champion New England Patriots. Unfortunately, the flight never happened and he never was able to try out. But then you, as international rugby fans, you need to understand the ramifications of an international player coming into this sport. While it might seem like it's a really great thing to help grow the sport beyond the borders here, the reality in it at the end of the day is this is America. It's a very insular country. Ronaldo and Messi are household names all around the world. We've heard the names here, but they're nothing close to the likes of LeBron James in this country. Americans like America. They like American things. That's why it's the Super Bowl. That's why it's the World Series. That's why it's NBA, baseball, NFL, National Hockey League. Americans are very insular, and as far as international sports, the reason that we don't support them is because we don't win. If USA men's rugby was winning World Cups, it would be a massively popular sport here. If the US men's soccer team was winning World Cups, it would be a massively successful sport here, but it's not. MLS ranks far behind all the other major pro leagues in here, and Major League Rugby even farther behind that. So if you ask me at the end of the day, how do I feel about this whole situation? Well, I think it's really horrible for rugby, and I think it's really horrible for the NFL overseas because A, it makes it look like rugby players don't want to play rugby anymore, and B, it makes it look like the NFL is a cakewalk, neither of which should be true or is possibly true. And at the end of the day, do I want Luis Rees-Zammit'S to fail? No. But the reality is if you go through the list of players that have come through the International Pathways player program with the NFL, the likelihood of him having any kind of success is extremely low. In an even further debate into all of this, how would you feel if USA got big in rugby and started offering $2 million contracts to players? Because this whole idea that passion and allegiance to country is going to take a backdoor to being a success financially is absolutely laughable at best. These guys are going to bolt for the U.S. And the U.S., while maybe in debt as much as people can say, it is still the wealthiest country in the world. And at the end of the day, whatever the U.S. wants is what the U.S. gets in the sporting world.